the way I've phrased that time period as a pitcher is it was like Star Wars. What you see Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker swinging was probably similar to what you saw players swinging the bat back then.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Warrior Weekly. I'm Brady Beedon, Kevin Brechmacher to my left. A lot to wrap up. I think we're going to talk mostly basketball in the last segment because we have the GLIAC tournament coming up. And I don't want to say the men had a lot to play for. Coming into the weekend, by Saturday, everything was essentially locked in. So it kind of felt like a get us to the tournament type weekend. But we can touch on basketball real quick. The women went 2-0 in two games they should have went 2-0 in. The men split. They fell to Lake State in what was a very emotional game on Thursday, which kind of in turn turned Saturday into, well, we know we're going to be the 6th seed, so let's celebrate the seniors.
Yeah, really the only exciting game of the four all weekend was that men's game Thursday night against Lake Superior. Another, I wouldn't call it a classic game because I've seen better played games between those two teams the last couple of years, but it seems like every time we play Lake State, it's a one-possession game, or it goes to overtime, or it goes to double overtime. That's happened twice in the last couple of years as well. So Lake State is playing very well in the tournament preview. In the next segment, we'll talk about how well they're playing, but give the men credit this weekend for this, Brady. They haven't shot the ball well really all year from three. Both games this week, the win against Saginaw Saturday and the loss on Thursday to Lake State, they shot either 50% from three or above 50%. So if they can continue that into next week, they can make a nice little run. But I was really impressed with their offense. But Lake State's just so gritty, man. They just found ways to make plays at the end of the game and win. I think we got worn down a little bit. We played all week without Jacoby Boost. Hopefully he'll be back this week for the GLIAC tournament. But so the bench was a little short on the guard side, and you can kind of tell late in the game we kind of wore down a little bit. But another classic game. Give Lake State credit for the win. Then Saturday, the men, senior day, they started four guys who don't usually play a lot. And those four guys, the effort was unbelievable. Saginaw Valley didn't have a field goal until the halfway point of the first half. These guys played well. Chris Mutabi had 3 threes in the first half, 11 points in the first half alone. Great to see that from Chris. So a great effort by the men on Saturday. Get some momentum going into next week. The women, again, taking care of business. Brady, we talked about it last week on the air. They did exactly that. Both games were just kind of, ho-hum. I'd say maybe C-B game from Wayne State, but they haven't needed their A game the last few weeks with their competition level, so hopefully they can pick that up next week.
I'm sure Coach Lohr wouldn't love us saying it, but it did kind of feel like that was, all right, let's get to the tournament part. We've done what we've needed to do. We've gotten through the meat of our schedule. They took care of it. Like, they didn't play with their food.
No.
And they very much dominated in both those games, but it was, all right, can we get there? And then also, Thursday was the biggest highlight was 1,000 points for both. McKenna Ferguson was already there. Taylor Thompson and Gabby Luchka both did it within about 4 minutes of game time of each other.
I have to say, Gabby Luchka, the way she's playing right now, she's been the best player in the conference the last couple of weeks. Another 20-point, 2 20-point games again this week. I believe that's 5 in a row now for Gabby. Just incredible shooting. Again, hopefully she can carry that into these next few weeks into the postseason. But yeah, again, nothing disparaging against the women's team. Again, we'll talk in the next segment about all the postseason awards they should win, the coaches should win. But again, it's human nature. We're all human, Brady. We're human as broadcasters. We're human as coaches. We're human as players. Like, you see the games on the schedule. I get 2 teams that are struggling to make the tournament. Now, Lake State did make it. Their reward for making the tournament is they get to play Grand Valley on Wednesday night over in Allendale. But, you got all these flashing lights saying, hey, GLIAC tournament coming up next week. NCAA tournament, we're locked into that. That's coming up in 2 weeks. So sometimes human nature is you let your guard down a little bit and maybe you don't play your most crisp, efficient basketball. But I expect the Warrior women to be playing their best basketball this week.
Some highlights from this past weekend. Women's indoor track and field. I know you were talking to Coach on the broadcast about it. They had their best finish ever in GLIAC program history, where they finished in second overall. First time they ever won the DMR, the distance medley relay. And that's an event that I don't think a lot of people know what it is. You have someone that runs a 1,200, a 400, an 800, and a 1,600. That's quite the race.
It is. Coach Lofdahl was explaining that race to me
Yes.
when I interviewed him on the air on Thursday. I love talking to Coach Lofdahl, by the way. He's doing a hell of a job here at Wayne State, both with his teams in the classroom and obviously in the track meets and cross-country meets they participate in. But, yeah, that is an interesting race. You just don't see that. Obviously, an outdoor track, you don't see that. Definitely a specific indoor track event.
So it was Godowski, Bastiansen, Felstow, and Gordon that won it. And at the end, Emily Gordon, at the end of the 1,600-meter leg, so some quick math. Basically, this is a 2.5-mile race. It was give or take a little bit. She won by, I think it was 0.05 of a second.
That's incredible.
To win the first DMR
for that
ever.
long of a race.
For that long of a race to come down to it. They get their first ever, and that was the big headline from the weekend. So, yeah, a unique race, and the first time Wayne State, again, a relatively young program. I think it's the 13th year this program's existed. First time winning that, so congratulations to them.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Lofdahl and the rest of the team. And I was joking with Grant and Coach Lofdahl on the air on Thursday because we were talking about the basketball game going on and the men's team and the game coming up as well. And his analysis was spot on. And I told him, I was like, listen, if Brady and I ever get sick or Sean can't fill in, hey, come on in and be a commentator for the game because he's just a great all-around guy and doing a hell of a job as a head coach.
Ella Huffnagel finished 5th in the pentathlon, and that was on Saturday. On Sunday, Nicole Warren won the triple jump. So another GLIAC champion there. Rachel Overgaard finished 2nd in the 200-meter. Avery Wilson finished 2nd in the 400-meter and broke her own school record, which has got to be a little bittersweet where you break a school record. It was her own school record, by the way, but you still finished second.
Yeah, still finished second, yeah.
Tells you a pretty good competition.
Absolutely. Well, there's always great competition in the GLIAC. I don't care what sport you're talking about, but great accomplishment. Always nice to see the student athletes do well in these events. Plus, set your own personal best in something is definitely an accomplishment. So
Emily Gordon in the 800-meter run finished 2nd. The 4x4 team placed 2nd, again, in a school record time. So another one of those, but a very nice weekend for our ladies in track and field.
Yeah, great weekend. And again, the outdoor season, as Coach Lofdahl mentioned on the air on last Thursday, starts in a couple weeks as well. So, again, it's a great time to be a Warrior. We're talking about all these other sports now, basketball wrapping up. Hopefully not too soon, obviously, with the postseason coming up, but it's great with the crossover season here to talk about other sports, and the shout out to the indoor track and field team because they did a heck of a job last weekend.
One thing that was announced was swimming and diving going to the national meet. Now, first of all, again, a little quirk of we record on Monday, it comes out on Wednesday after it's edited. 99% of the time, nothing happens on a Tuesday. Well, the preliminary diving would be yesterday as you're listening to this, tomorrow as we're recording. John Martin, Mac Wozniak, Ariana Hugh, and Alicia Vieches all are diving. So hopefully all of them qualify for the Nationals. But we don't know that as of now. We do know the swimmers that are involved. On the women's side, it's Ellie Belmore and Deanna Maciuoli have made it in. And on the men's side, Gabriel Arias, Khalil Benajima, Olin Sharnstrom, William Debro, Kadim Gosku, Erdgali, and Lorenzo Tassinari all made it on the men's side. So another slew of Warriors going to the Nationals on the in swim and dive.
Love to see it. Love to see it. Love to see the success from the Warriors. Great job by the swimming and diving team all season, but again, great luck going forward into the national meet.
Tennis, both men's and women's tennis have been on a heater to start. The women won their GLIAC over 6-1 over Saginaw and then beat Hillsdale 4-3 on Saturday.
Seems like both those teams have been on a heater for 4 or 5 years now. Brady.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's just continuing to go, and nice to see a great start to the season for both the men's and women's tennis
and
teams.
And the men, they defeated Tiffin 5-2, then beat Hillsdale 6-1, and then played Case Western Reserve. While they are a D3, they're a top 5 D3 team in the country. So pretty good weekend for both men's and women's tennis. As I feel like they've combined have lost like one match, and that was to Toledo.
Yeah, lost to Toledo.
The men lost to Toledo.
Doesn't honestly count going forward in the rankings because it was a Division I team, obviously. And Toledo, from growing up down there and being around that program when I used to work down in Toledo, is an excellent tennis program as well.
Oh, by the way, baseball, they played down in Cincinnati again. They took 3 of 4 from Findlay. I have a feeling the baseball race in the GLIAC is going to be fun. Between Wayne State, Grand Valley, and Saginaw Valley, they have started 29-5.
Yeah, I noticed. I actually looked at that last night after I saw Wayne State had wrapped up another series win over Findlay last week. Yeah, it's gonna be great. And you're talking to Coach Kelley here coming up on Warrior Weekly. I can't wait to talk to him about what he thinks the GLIAC's going to be this year. But yeah, what a great start by the baseball team, 10-2. They're pounding the ball, which is tough to do early in the season. They're pitching well. They're winning games. And like we talked about last week, how many series did it take to maybe see where you're at? I said 4 or 5. Well, they've played 3. So another couple weeks, and we should know exactly what we have here from Wayne State. And so far, I think we have a pretty good baseball team.
Well, they'll be off until next Monday when they go down to Florida and they play their 6 games in 6 days. And I think after that, we'll have a pretty good idea of what they're going to be.
Yeah. Off this week, spring break next week, and they'll go down to Florida. Always nice to get down there and get some get the suntan going a little bit, get some color in you, and get ready to play some pretty good teams down there. They usually do. They always play some tough teams down there in Florida. They'll go around the whole state playing, and can't wait to see how they do, and then come back up here. And then, hey, Brady, we got a couple more non-league games, and it's time for GLIAC series to start when the money is made, I guess.
Absolutely. So, on that note, we will hear my conversation with head coach Ryan Kelley from the Wayne State baseball program right here on Warrior Weekly. All right, now joining us here on the show, head coach of Wayne State baseball, over 500 wins, winningest head coach in program history. I think a surefire lock to be a future Hall of Famer here at Wayne State. Ryan Kelley. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Brady. It's great to be here. I did not throw one pitch or hit one ball in those wins. So
hey, but you found the guys that did, so that's all part of it. But let's start at the beginning like I like to do with all the coaches. Let's talk about when you were throwing some. So you're originally from around here, played some pretty high-level college ball. Tell the story about your playing days.
Sure. Well, originally from around here, like you to an extent. I have a unique upbringing. So I grew up in the Northville area, and at one point in Metro Detroit, the horse racing business was very extensive. There was horse tracks all over, and my mother was a horse jockey. And there used to be a racetrack in Northville, Michigan called Northville Downs. Most recently, it's not there anymore. There's new development, real estate development. But that's how I became to this area. And my father was a construction worker who also went to Wayne State University. And that's where I found out about this place at a young age. And it gave me opportunities to learn about the community and grow in the community, which involved baseball. And growing up in the area, playing youth baseball through high school baseball, and then into the college level. And I had the opportunity to go to the University of Michigan and play baseball there. And not sure I wanted to get into coaching at that time, but it led to, there was some reasons why I got into coaching from there. That was my playing days, and I had some great teammates that helped me develop at who I am today, and some coaches, and I'm here at Wayne State now.
And I know you didn't come right into coaching at Wayne State, but one thing you did before you came to Wayne State, because you served a few different roles, did a season on the radio with U of M.
Oh yeah. I'm a little.
I had to ask you about
that. Little, kind of like you. Finished up my collegiate playing days, and probably similar to you, had the opportunity and got the ask to do some play-by-play with the alma mater, and we had a great time. I did it with Doug Karsh. You might hear Doug Karsh on 97.1 nowadays. He and I were the tandem duo and had a great time doing it. Was still involved in the game, and I was dabbling in coaching a little bit at that time with some high school and some personal training, and it kind of just led to some more sports environment for me in coaching.
So now you were a pitcher, correct?
I was.
How scary was it with the old bats? Because you look back now, I'm sure you were used to it and didn't think any of it then, but you look back now at the bats that were used before the change. Yeah. Those things were missiles.
Yeah, so the 1990s time frame, I did have the opportunity to pitch and play some other positions, but I primarily was a pitcher at the collegiate level. The way I've phrased that time period as a pitcher is it was like Star Wars. What you see Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker swinging was probably similar to what you saw players swinging the bat back then. And you still you still got outs, you still could pitch, but it was an electric time for hitters.
Yeah, right.
The earned run averages, like maybe a 5 ERA was competitive and good back then. But there was games that were like 15 plus run games, stuff like that. Some great offensive production, a lot of fun to watch from a fan,
right,
and as a baseball fan, like opposite field home runs, just broken bats that became doubles. It was electric, and obviously changes needed to be made,
right,
for a safety standpoint. And I think it's kind of brought the collegiate level back to maybe a realistic approach with the game of baseball.
Well, I'm always curious, like if they had TrackMan back in the night, what some of the exit velos would have been, because I mean they're even ridiculous now. But now you give them basically a souped up bat. I mean, you're probably getting extra 5-10 miles an hour on some of those,
without question, and distance travel.
Oh
too.
yeah,
it was, like I said, it was electric. There were long baseball days too. Like baseball is as you know, when you're in a booth, it could be a long day, especially on doubleheader. Those days were really long back then, But yeah, you're right. Exit velo was it was amazing, and it was like when I was pitching, sometimes I knew what it felt like to look back and see how far a ball would go.
How quickly it just kind of faded into the horizon.
Yeah, and even coming back at you with some serious tempo. But it was in the dugout, watching your teammates compete and have fun and score, and there was some fun to it also.
So, all right, you come to Wayne State. And you kind of are working, maybe not in the athletics as much as first. Tell everyone about your story coming here.
Very passionate about the city of Detroit, and I had aspirations to continue my education, and I always kind of wanted to be in this area based on my upbringing and what the city and the community meant to me. And so I had the opportunity to work on my master's degree here. The athletic department was a different environment back then compared to what it is now. And so that we didn't have necessarily graduate assistants back then and opportunities in the athletic department. But I understood picking up the phone or visiting the office and saying I want to be involved. And so I followed those plans. I did my education here. And I knew the head coach at the time, who was Jay Alexander. I knew Roger George briefly before that, but I had known Jay through our baseball window together, and I said, I'm around. I'd love to help out. I'm working on my master's degree, and so an opportunity developed, and I came on, and it wasn't really a paid opportunity, and so I needed to find some other avenues of income, and opportunities developed around the campus. I had different roles. I worked in admissions. I worked in the Housing and Residential Life office. I actually was a community director of 3 of the residential properties on campus. You may have lived in one of them. I was at UT, the community director, University.
Oh, no, see, I was an Atchison guy.
Oh, there you go. And then Rob Fournier, the athletic director at the time, gave me an opportunity to work in the administration side, more so on student-athlete support and academics. I was the SAC advisor, and so I had some opportunities there while I was an aspiring and young assistant coach to understand and appreciate the inner workings of the athletic department, the administration side, and coach at the same time. And then that just continued to lead to my progression with Wayne State baseball in the athletic department.
So my next question is going to be about how does that help you now as a head coach, where you understand maybe some of the more logistical side of things when a kid comes up to you and says, oh, man, I've had problem with my dorms, or I've had problems with this. How much has that helped you with the off-the-field stuff of being a head coach?
Tremendously. So when you're an assistant coach, like there's great power in assistant coaches. I really enjoyed my time as an assistant coach. We've had great assistant coaches for our program in the past and currently, and there's great value in assistant coach, and there's might be more coaching from the assistants and the position coaches. Probably definitely is, and that's depending on the sports and what's going on. When you get to the head coaching level, you've got your hands in everything, and it's more of like you're more like an athletic director of your program. You're more of a boss or a CEO of your program. And so, yes, working with things off the field, residential life, financial aid, admissions, advising, problems, good problems, bad problems, raising money, finding avenues to succeed. I was just working on travel before I stepped in with you. And so you have to have your hands on a lot of things, and having some of that administrative background and experience is very, very helpful.
So when did you know you wanted to be the head coach here at Wayne State?
Good question. So really, when I got into coaching, I sometimes get this ask, like, why coaching? When I was playing, usually when you're a player, like, you're not really thinking about going into coaching. In some levels, you're like, when I'm done, I'm going to be done and move on. My grandmother, who was she worked in the Detroit area post office back then. When I was playing, she's like, "You'll probably be a good coach." And I remember saying, "I'm not going to coach. I'm not going to do this." And but as I grew as a college player, I was very fortunate to have some really, really good teammates, and we had some really good runs and some good things happen within our group, and I wanted to help be a part of that with the future generations of the game, and so. That's special. I think when you can cultivate a team and create brotherhood that goes beyond the eligibility time frame, that's really why I wanted to get into coaching. And so when I became an assistant coach, I knew I wanted to be in the Detroit area. I wasn't sure if I would stay here that long. I really enjoyed being at this university. I enjoyed being in the city, going through the renaissance of Detroit throughout the course of my time period. I knew I wanted to be here. And so the head coach at the time that gave me an opportunity, Jay Alexander, we had a great relationship, still great friends to this day. He helped me evolve as a coach, and then I built relationships with the community, and more extensively the student athletes on the team. And I was like, this is pretty special. And so he had moved on to take a position at a mid-major, and I had to make a decision: should I stay or should I go? And I made the decision to stay here. And I remember vividly going into the athletic director's office and being like, "Let's talk about this. What do we need to do?" And going through that process, and still here to this day.
You know, I always joke. Once Wayne State gets their claws in you, you're not leaving, right? Because it feels like you and half of your colleagues have been here as long as you have.
Well, even before you asked me that question just now, like the Gary Bryce before me, and Jersey Rats with fencing and other coaches, it's a special place. It's a special university. Several of us have had opportunities to do other things and maybe dabble in that environment. But being in this city, being at a university that has such amazing opportunity on and off the field or court or the pool, what have you, it's unique and it's special. I mean, the building we're in now, I mean, I've seen Bill Clinton here, I've seen Hillary Clinton here, I've seen the Obamas here, and it's amazing, like, what happens on this campus and what happens in this city, and it's special to be here.
Absolutely. Now, you talked about culture, about building the team culture, and I think that's something that I've heard from people outside of this university is one thing that when I bring up Wayne State baseball, that's what they bring about. What was your focus points and how you planned on building it that's led you to having this, great active alumni base with baseball and guys that are coming back and just the overall brand of Wayne State baseball?
There's been some staple points in that process. I think philosophies evolve over time, but there's been a few key points when I became the head coach that we still stick to this day. And the primary one was we want to graduate and win. We want to do both at the highest level possible, and we try to keep that in our vision every day as we progress forward. And so and there's high expectations with both of those entities. Getting the best GPA possible, and then, evolving as a student athlete academically to propel yourself in the future beyond graduation. And we want to win also. The city of Detroit was built on winning. There's been some ups and downs, obviously, but we want to continue that progress. And so expectations to do your job, whatever your role has on this team, to help us win. And so we definitely set the tone with the expectations in that regard internally. We do talk about a team-first dynamic extensively with our group. Again, whatever role you have, we typically have a roster, depending on the year, probably in the 30 to 40 range, average 35 normally. And the action of one student athlete can reflect the entire team. If you get an A in a class, it represents the whole team. If you fail a class, it represents the whole team. And so just understanding being a part of the team and what you have to do would be to, you're part of something larger than yourself. And so the constant communication with that. And then, so the team first, the graduate win, but also we call it baseball leadership, just constantly on the hunt to build leadership. Whether you're a senior or a freshman, a member of the coaching staff, the constant hunt to build leadership and what that means on and off the field. It's hard to talk about that in one episode. It probably would be a series when you break this
Right.
down. But those are three staples. And then obviously representing the university. We do talk about the name on the front of our jersey a lot. And so representing on the field, but off the field, getting in the community, representing your alumni base. We're year 86 of Wayne State baseball now. And so we're standing on the shoulders of the 86 years of Wayne State baseball student athletes that have come before us. And understanding and appreciating that, embracing our alumni. It's great when we actually had dinner with alumni. We were just in Cincinnati. They joined us for team dinner. And we'll go to Florida. We'll see some alumni in Florida. Make sure when you take the uniform off, it doesn't mean that you're no longer with the team and the program. And so embracing that and understanding that and so forth. I would love to talk more about our alumni. We've got some good ones. We really do.
So I guess since you brought up the alumni, you have had some pretty special ones just in the base. I know you've had plenty that have done things off the field, but let's talk about some that have done it on the field at the highest level. When you have some of those guys that you know could be special, when do you start to find that out? Is that something you see them like in high school and go, all right, this guy has a high ceiling if we can get him to reach it, or does something click while they're on campus and maybe it's their sophomore or junior year where you go, oh, I didn't even know he had this level in him?
A little bit of both, and so you'll see some of the athletic talent through the recruiting process in high school, maybe those early days on campus as a freshman, but then maybe some things do click when they get a little bit older, and it could be a maturation process mentally, physically, developmentally, and so it's really probably more on the individual and where they are in that given point in time, but we've had some players drafted. We've had some players not get drafted and still move on professionally, maybe through an undrafted free agent role or go through an independent route. But we've had many other baseball players go professional in something other than baseball too. And so it's an evolving process. I don't know if you want to break it down a little bit with like specific individuals. Obviously, we've got one that's pitching at a really high level right now.
Well, yeah, Hunter Brown's the one that everyone right now sees in the Cy Young race, and kind of he's the anchor of that Astros rotation, which it wasn't that long ago. He was the anchor of your rotation, a few hundred yards to our right out in the Harwell Field.
It took him some time too. His freshman and sophomore year, he might have got some spot starts, worked out of the bullpen, but really like the junior year, it really clicked. Maybe the sophomore summer, going into his junior year, some things really clicked, and he kind of grew into his own. That was a special time, and not only Wayne State baseball, but Wayne State history. It was unique and it was dynamic. Before him, though, we had Anthony Bass.
Right.
Anthony Bass actually called me this morning, checking in on the team and how it's going. He lives in Nashville now. I told him to go to the Red Wings game, which is at 2:00 today, whenever this airs.
Yeah, so people know on Wednesday when this comes out how it went. But yeah, it was going to start in about 2 hours.
But the thing about Hunter, when I mentioned Anthony, and there were some others around that time frame, Hunter embraced the physical dynamic and physical growth, but he was always hungry to learn. And so attacking some of the mental side of things and the growth as a pitcher were pretty unique with him. So if Anthony Bass was around and Hunter Brown was a freshman in his days, he made sure to go talk to Anthony Bass, ask him questions. Maybe we would have some pro guys train with us in the off season. Hunter Brown was always there watching him work out, and I think that has progressed across his time frame, and he had an unbelievable work ethic. He still does to this day. he's having success in Houston, but he does not forget where he comes from. He's here in the offseason working hard in Detroit. And so there's some things, and he's dynamic, and it's been a great time to watch him have success with the Houston Astros.
Mm-hmm. And when the Astros do come to Detroit, I'm going to try to get you to get him in that chair for us.
Oh, yeah, sure.
No, I think that's awesome. And I guess transitioning now to this year's team, I want to ask just a little bit about it because you're off to a nice start. But the GLIAC is so tough every darn year. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a rotate. It's not, hey, it's you and Davenport every year, or it's Saginaw and Grand Valley going at it. It seems like it's a rotation of 4 or 5 teams. I mean, when Northwood was in the league, those were always battles. Why is the GLIAC so darn tough when maybe some at other levels they struggle to have year in and year out consistency up top?
So every sport I've noticed in the GLIAC is tough, and the conference is tough, and it's challenging, and I think it brings out the best in every program. And so I think that's part of the solution when you ask that question is there's high expectations with every school in the GLIAC, and regardless of the sport. And within the game of baseball, you and I were talking a little bit before we went on air here. Like, there's a lot of great baseball in this region, and so it's competitive in the recruiting cycle amongst the schools. And then when you get on the field of play, like, there's been a lot of battles maybe through recruiting, and a lot of these players have played against each other before they got to college, and so there's already some competition that's been birthed before maybe even they put on the college uniform, and so it's unique and it's dynamic. Resources continue to grow across the GLIAC at every school, so facilities, opportunities, and so I think that's another stage of the competitive spirit within the GLIAC. But yeah, there's fight and there's battles, and I think it brings out the best out of each program.
And I'm hoping this year we're going to have a few fun ones over at Harwell Field because, hopefully, knock on wood, you've got a lot of guys back and hopefully a little better luck with keeping them on the field this year too.
Sure. Well, I mean, want to give some respect to our senior class from last year.
Oh, yeah.
And so we definitely had some ups and downs last year. Whenever you get adversity, and last year's team, when it's talked about, we did get hit with the injuries, and we battled through that. Adversity does build growth, and it builds strength if you handle it the right way. And I'll give really great respect to our senior class last year that kind of channeled that storm, worked together, maybe had to change roles, change positions even in certain instances, and put us in a position to be successful towards the end of the season as we battled through that process. And that experience has led to this year. Players that were on the team last year maybe have been pushed and had their own challenges, and they learned from some of those seniors and those upperclassmen from last year how to lead this year going forward. Obviously, maintaining health and doing what we can there. You are going to get aches and pains, and you're going to battle that when you play 50-plus games and you're playing six games a week. That stuff is going to develop. You got to work through it. But we work with our strength and conditioning team, our sports medicine team, and try to obviously monitor volume and how our personnel is on a day-to-day basis, and we'll take each day as we have it.
Well, Coach, I know we could probably talk for another hour or so, but last question I'll leave you with. What would you tell Coach Kelley that was getting ready for his first day as head coach, knowing what you know all these years later?
Oh, wow. So first day head coach, try to stay patient, stay patient, continue to find as many resources as possible to be successful, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
All right. Well, I like it, Coach. Good luck this year. We'll be rooting for you. Enjoy the trip to Florida here next week, and then we'll be ready for the home opener against Ohio Dominican, on the 17th? 16th or 17th, one of the
St. Patrick's Day.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, Coach, I appreciate it, and thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Brady. Appreciate you.
All right, back here on Warrior Weekly. As we look forward, now this segment, I think we're going to spend a lot of time on the GLIAC tournaments because both the men and women are getting ready for their GLIAC tournament, which will start the day this comes out on March 4th, on Wednesday. The men, they go to GV. Now, would have loved for them to have had a home game. The men's side of the bracket, it feels like chaos could happen. Obviously, Northerns and Michigan Tech are very, very good. But the difference on the men's side from 1 to 8 than the women's side, where it feels like it's kind of a 3-team race, where it's going to be, hopefully, Wayne State and Ferris playing for the right to take on Grand Valley and knock them off. The men's side, I'm not going to tell any team they can't beat someone in the first round.
I'm almost to the point where I'm going to say I don't think Ferris State can win at Northern Michigan the way the Bulldogs are playing, but I agree. You never know. Ferris State, they've got some shooters that if they get hot, could give Northern Michigan some problems. But yeah, everybody else, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. As a broadcaster, I love Wayne State's draw just from watching the league all year, 2 times through. And, Wayne State playing Grand Valley for the 3rd time in school history in the postseason. The last time was back in 2010.
Which is a wild stat, by the way.
Yeah, for 2 in-state schools who have been in the same conference for a long time to only play 3 times now on the men's side in the postseason is incredible. Grand Valley's 2-0 against Wayne State, so it's about time we pick up a win in the win column there. Nothing would be sweeter as a Warrior to go over to Grand Valley and knock them off and knock them out of the tournament. I had mentioned last week, I think on the broadcast of the game on Thursday, that GV, we maybe would have a chance to maybe end GV's season. Well, taking a double look at the region rankings last week, Grand Valley was 3rd last week on the men's side, so they're pretty safe into the NCAA tournament. So we wouldn't be ending their season, but we'd be beating them on their home court in the conference tournament. They haven't won a conference tournament in a while either, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I like the matchup just because Wayne State played a really good game over there earlier in the year. It was a 3-point game with a minute to go, and one of their kids hit a fadeaway 3 as the shot clock was winding down to push the lead to 6, and that kind of ended the game. And then here, on that the best day of the year so far to be a Warrior on the basketball side, the double win over Grand Valley, the men won by 2, held them off at the end of the game. So they beat them once, so why can't they beat them again? Brian Smothers is 2-2 in that gym as head coach, which for being on the road against a good team and your rival is a pretty good mark. Let's up that mark to 3-2 and let's keep moving. But if Wayne State wins, they play the winner of Michigan Tech and Davenport, probably on a neutral court because we expect Northern Michigan to win. If they do, they'll host the semifinals and finals. So I don't know how much more you could ask if you're Wayne State, because here's what's going to happen, Brady. For people out there who don't know, Northern Michigan does not like Michigan Tech. Michigan Tech does not like
That's
Northern
kind
Michigan.
of a big rivalry.
So let's just say we're playing Michigan Tech in the semifinals up at Northern Michigan.
You get a
you're going to get the crowd behind you a little bit too, especially if Northern Michigan wins. They don't want to see Michigan Tech in the final. They want to see Wayne State. So you're going to have maybe an advantage there. And you played Tech to a 1-point loss on the road back in January, and you played Tech to a 4-point loss at home in a game where Tomaszek did some Tomaszek things down the stretch, hit some shots. You were right there. So again, the matchup is there for Wayne State. And if Davenport were to somehow knock off Michigan Tech, which isn't out of the realm of possibility with the Walker kid who can score 40 points on any given night, then you're playing a team you beat twice already on a neutral court who's been up in the UP all week hanging out with having to play Michigan Tech first. So again, you like the draw if you're Wayne State, but the Warriors have got to shoot the ball well. They can't go into Grand Valley and go 6 for 25 from 3.
And take care of the bat, because they shot the ball well against Lake State.
Yeah, and you can't turn it over 23 times.
A lot.
They corrected that on Saturday. They only had 10 turnovers, I think, on Saturday, so that was much better. But they have to shoot the ball well. They can't shoot in the 20s or low 30s from 3 with a lot of shots and expect to win the game. But Grand Valley, they don't like to play fast most of the time. Lake State beat them a couple weeks ago by speeding the game up and just outscoring them. So I think Grand Valley wants to play, in the high 60s, low 70s and make it a half-court game. But we'll see if Wayne State can get up and down the court a little bit. Score in transition if they do. I think they're going to be right there at the end.
So real quick, for anyone that's maybe not familiar with it, the GLIAC basketball tournament is actually very simple. It's 8 teams make it. Everyone plays in the quarterfinals. After first round is at the higher seeds, so Northern, Lake State, Grand Valley, and Tech all host on the men's side. And then after the first round, the highest remaining seed hosts the rest of the tournament.
Yes.
Very simple. The only reason I bring that up is because you get around this, and especially more so in D1 than in D2, you get some of the most convoluted brackets. We might talk about that during baseball season here.
Yeah.
But in GLIAC basketball, they do it right. It's simple, and I understand why sometimes you see like the quadruple buys to the semis, because the league only gets one team to the NCAA tournament, so they want to ensure
triple buys in the Big Ten tournament this year. Yeah.
Or like the Horizon League, they like play the first round and then they seed based off the first round, but there's a play-in and 5 teams make it. It's convoluted. It doesn't. It's it's a focus group that made these brackets. So I just wanted to give the GLIAC some love and say thank you for making it simple and not overcomplicating your conference tournament.
There's 11 teams in the league. 3 of them don't make the tournament, which I've always argued against. Everybody should make the tournament. But with that being said, 8 teams make the tournament. Like you said, you don't have to have an engineering degree to figure out the bracket.
Right.
It's straightforward. And let's go play. Wayne State's the 6th seed on the men's side. They're playing the 3 seed Grand Valley. If they win, you don't get reseeded after the first round like some tournaments do. Hey, you're playing
even that's fine. Like that I can understand.
It's a little confusing too because you don't know who to scout for.
But you want to reward the best regular seed. I understand that. It's when you have like, okay, if winner of game 2 plays the loser of this. I mean, when we get to baseball season, that is the worst conference tournament the setup. But anyway, I digress. Let's go to the women's side because Wayne State's the 2 seed. They'll host Roosevelt Wednesday, 5:30. Again, Coach Lohr
coming out.
Keeping it at the same time. So 5:30, you'll have plenty of time to get back for the men's game. Hopefully should take care of business there. Now, Northern Michigan is scary because the way they shoot, they're a team that could get bombed in the first round, or they're a team that could shoot their way to the finals. So I'll throw them in there, but it feels like the top 4 seeds kind of are, there's a gap between them and everyone else.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all unlike the men's side, which I think we could see some upsets in the first round, I think all 4 of the top seeds on the women's sides are not just favorite, but big favorites. Michigan Tech and Northern, we just talked about the rivalry there, so that's going to be interesting. I think Northern ends up winning, especially at home, but Tech will give them a game. They'll try to slow it down and limit the threes from Northern, and we'll see if they can effectively do that. And then I'm going to be a little sneaky here and say Parkside, especially with the way Ferris State played last week. Maybe talk about that in a minute, but they didn't play very well last week. They got bombed at Grand Valley and then were struggling at Davenport before they finally won late. I think by around 10 points. So don't totally discount Parkside. They're sneaky good. They're well coached. Jen does a great job with them.
They just haven't
they're healthy
put
now.
It together.
They haven't put it together, but they're healthy now. They won at Tech on Saturday, so they got some momentum going. And I'm not picking them to win. I still think Ferris will win the game, but it might be a little closer than you think down the stretch in that one. But yeah, I would suspect all 4 top seeds to win. Wayne State playing Roosevelt for the 3rd time this year. They've won by 20 plus points both times they played them. I suspect they'll take care of business and start bringing that A game, getting ready for the semifinals. And what a semifinal, Brady, it could be. I mean, the only counts. I mean, I obviously hope the men win, and hopefully we keep going with the men. But to watch the women's semifinals this year would be something to watch because, again, all 4 teams are going to be in the NCAA tournament. It could be the Final Four of the region as well. Who knows how the seeds come out? But it could be a redo a week later in the NCAA tournament with all 4 teams. But Northern Grand Valley would be a heck of a semifinal game. And then, of course, I've been wanting Ferris State on a neutral court all year to kind of have that rubber match to see what happens.
And yeah, you mentioned it. But real quick, I just want to, for everyone out there that wants to follow along, here's the schedule. Yep. So Wednesday, the day you're listening to this, on March 4th, women play at home at 5:30. I'll be at that one. Kevin, you are at Grand Valley. That one is after the women's game. Call it 7:30.
Pre-game show about 7:30, 7:45 tip.
And part of, I don't want to get too technical, but part of it is depending on when I go off the air is when Kevin can go on the air. So hopefully our game goes rather quickly. So that will be Wednesday. Friday on March 7th will determine when the rest of it, Saturday, March 7th, will be determined on what happens. If both teams win, Kevin, you'll be following the men, wherever that might be, likely to the UP. I would be following them, either to Grand Valley or if they win and Lake State has the upset of the year, be back at home.
Yeah.
I will be following them, and then we'll figure it out from there. So that would be Saturday, and then the championship would be on Sunday, March 8th. That's when both sides would play to determine the conference championship.
Yeah, shout out. I was going to mention this. I'm glad you did, Brady. But every game in the postseason is going to be covered by the Warrior Sports Network, whether it's you or me calling the games. And it's the first time in Wayne State history, at least as far as I've been here, and I know even before I was here it didn't happen, but 2 fully produced broadcasts on quarterfinal night in 2 separate spots.
Yes.
There's been 2 broadcasts in the same spot before, but not 2 separate spots. I mean, Brady's calling the game in Detroit at 5:30. I'm going to be over in Allendale at 7:30, 7:45 when we're both fully produced broadcasts on the Warrior Sports Network. So shout out to all the work done behind the scenes for that, and our work all year with doing that, especially with you, Brady, getting it ready to go. And like, hey,
we'll be following them all the way through the
whole way through the postseason. Hopefully, you can join me on the women's side. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but we'll be following Wayne State until they're eliminated, both the men's and the women's, on the Warrior Sports Network. So if you can't make it to the game, again, please come out Wednesday and support this women's team. I do want to shout, I don't know how much time we have left in the segment, but this could be the best women's team in the history of Wayne State. They're a win away from tying the best mark of all time for wins in 23. So they get 2 more wins. They'll have 24, which is more than they've ever gotten before. The women have never, ever played in the conference championship game.
Yeah, which is weird to think about.
Me. So if they win 2 games going into Sunday, that'll be a first for the Wayne State women. And please, and I know the voting's already taken place by the time this gets released, but there's no way that Carrie Lohr should not be GLIAC Coach of the Year on the women's side. I understand that Mike Williams has been the head coach at Grand Valley for a long time. They've lost 1 game all year to Wayne State, by the way. They're the defending national champs. Everybody thought they were going to be great this year. They were picked first in the league. Ferris State was picked, I think, second in the league, so maybe they dropped a run. Kurt does a great job at Ferris State as well. Casey Thousand at Northern Michigan is a hell of a coach, too. There's some great coaches in the GLIAC, but if you remember, Wayne State was picked 5th by all the coaches in the preseason. Where'd they finish? 2nd. And all the road games they played, their schedule, everybody they've lost to this year, coming into this week, we'll see where the region rankings kind of shake out this week, but everybody Wayne State's lost to coming into this week would be in the NCAA tournament if the tournament started this week. So there's no bad losses. Usually you have a hiccup or two along the way. That has not happened. And the job Carrie's done just keeping the team together, all the road trips, all the problems we've had on the road this year. I won't get into some of them, but there's been some issues. She has to be Coach of the Year. And honestly, Brady, I don't care. You can. It's like dealer's choice. Either McKenna Ferguson, Taylor Thompson, or Gabby Luchka should be GLIAC Player of the Year. They all 3 should be first team for sure, but one of them should be Player of the Year.
All right.
Saying it right now.
I've got nothing to add to that. So on that note, do want to mention one quirk that will be in there. Softball is scheduled to host Oakland on Saturday. Good news, it's supposed to be in the 60s. Bad news, there's rain in the forecast. Hopefully that holds off because the softball team's been off for a little while, and we'd like to get them on there. Someone will be covering that. That is going to be something that's decided tonight as you listen to this, after the men and women have played their basketball games.
If the men unfortunately lose and you get to call the softball game on Saturday, I was joking with you all winter that you're going to have to wear your winter coat and hat. I can't believe they're playing softball on March 7th. But now with the weather forecast, you could be wearing your Hawaiian shirt and shorts.
I might be. I'm just... That is in there.
Hopefully it doesn't happen because both the men and women win.
And if they do, we'll have some way.
Someone
will be there doing that game. Yes. Also, fencing finally has their regionals on Sunday. They're at Cleveland State for that.
Yeah, and they're practicing as we're taping right now. They're practicing over here at the Math High. So again, what a great time to be a Warrior. This is my favorite time of year, Brady. I'm a basketball guy at heart. Baseball's probably my favorite overall sport, but as far as broadcasting, I love calling basketball. In early March, when these conference tournaments are going on, and then the NCAA tournament, I can't wait. When I woke up yesterday morning and saw my phone, it said March 1st. I'm like, here we go, baby. Couple weeks. I can't wait to call these games and to see how far these teams can go, because obviously the women have had a great year. The men have been up and down, but they're a classic 500 team. But you know what? You get hot one week, you can win a tournament. We've seen a lot of teams on the men's side be a lower seeded team these last 10 years I've been here at Wayne State to win the conference tournament. And what happens if you win the conference tournament, Brady? You get an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. So who knows what could happen? I can't wait.
All right. Fun-filled week. Again, make sure to join all of us from Wednesday all the way through Sunday. And we'll talk about it all next week here on Warrior Weekly.